my scrappy friends, welcome to the Clique Kits channel. This is Hannah with you, and I am working on the May sketch that Maryam has designed. You would have just seen it a few minutes ago, and I am going to be using a really big picture. So I've had this picture printed for a very long time, actually. I took it a while ago. I want to say last spring, maybe. We love to do the zoo and museum type things, and so obviously when you go to the zoo you tend to have a lot of photos, right? Especially if you take photos every single time you go. And one of my kids' favorite things are the puffins at the zoo, and during this day the puffins were all climbing up to the top and then just flying down into the ground. And so I had my DSLR and I put it on the special modes that I could control all the different elements. And so I put it so that I could get better shots of movement. So when you play around with this different settings, you can make it so that the shutter opens up fast or opens up slow. And if you do it so it stays open for longer, when there's movement, sometimes you can catch some really good shots. If they're moving really fast and stuff, these kinds of things just make for really fun. Now, you also can get some blurry photos, so you do have to like keep trying it. And this was really hard because the birds were flying down, and so I'm trying to get a shot of where it's not blurry. And I managed to get a couple of really fun shots. So these are things that, like, whenever you're playing with your cameras, just know sometimes you got to take a lot of shots to get the one good shot, right? I mean, so just because you get some bad shots doesn't mean that you won't get a good shot. So just keep trying. This is one of the things that I absolutely love about photography, is that if you just keep playing, eventually you're going to find the settings and find the types of photos that you really like to take and that you take really well. So play around with your cameras and your phones and whatever you're using to take your photos, and take different types of shots and see what you take the best of. So because this was taken with my really nice camera, it was really simple to be able to blow up because the quality of the photo isn't going to be really bad. So this is one thing to think about when you're taking a big photo or you wanting to print a really big photo, is that depending on what kind of camera you use, blowing it up, it might pixelate it a bit, or depending on if you've edited it in a nice program where you can change around the DPI or the pixels so that it has a better quality. So this is something to think out of when you do a really big picture like this. And definitely if you print at home, you definitely want to make sure you have a lot of ink, because I know I had to print this a couple of times for it to get to be the quality that I wanted, because my printer doesn't always like to print amazing. Sometimes it does an awesome job, and sometimes I find that, like, if it sticks and I haven't been using it or it's running low on ink, it likes to be a little choppy. So just keep that aware whenever you're doing photos that you know you're going to use a really big picture, because you're going to see those flaws. So sometimes sending these kinds of pictures off are awesome to do, just because you know you're going to get a really nice quality that's going to be even, and the color is going to be really true to what you took. Okay, so now you're seeing me play around. I am definitely stitching all of these layers. There's all these amazing, like, starbursty elements, and so I'm trying to figure out what colors from the May kit are going to work the best. I mean, they're all gorgeous. I really wanted to use them all, and as you've seen, I tried to use that yellow paper, but I just decided that it wasn't working, and it was just too, it just wasn't working for me. So know that sometimes when you're doing a layout like this, that you might have to cut up a whole bunch of papers, and I had a really hard time cutting up these papers, because some of them, like that black and white one, I would have loved to have just used it for the background, But, you know, it is what it is. And I'm fine with cutting it up because I absolutely love how this layout turned out. It was really, really fun to make. It was a lot of work. I think I spent, oh gosh, I spent a long time doing it because I, obviously I didn't show me stitching it because that's really hard to film. And just, yeah, so some of the pieces I cut out, but I know I'm gonna put that circle element, and I actually added sequins in there. You can't see that, but I did add sequins on the inside. And I really love the way the vellum looks with the sequins just kind of peeking in through. I mean, you're not going to see them entirely because I'm going to put even more on there. I'm going to put my title on there, and I sewed it on, which took a lot of time also. So there is a lot of like prep work that had to go into making this layout work really well, but it was totally worth it because when you're done and you get all these layers, and I'm making sure that after each time I'm done with each little triangle area or starbursty area, however you want to say it, I'm making sure that I'm using my fingernails to kind of fluff up the edges because otherwise they're going to seem really flat. And that's okay if that's what you want. If you don't want as much texture, you definitely don't have to do that. I mean, even so, if you go to Instagram and you put in May Sketch for Clique Kits, you can see all the different variations of this sketch. And some of the ladies did an awesome job just not even using pattern paper and doing different elements and putting their photo in a different place. So as you can see, my photo is really big and I end up covering up a huge amount of my photo, which is kind of sad. I would have liked to maybe have used a little bit more, but I really wanted to also keep the integrity of the sketches, which is weird because a lot of times I don't care and I'm like, it's a sketch. I'm going to do my own thing, even though I've used it as a background. And that's fine, right? However you feel necessary to use a sketch. And that's what I love about sketches. It's really just a great starting off point. And the awesome thing is that we try to share a sketch each month. Actually, in the month of June, we have 2 sketches. So definitely be on the lookout for those because I know I'll be using mine soon for this month or for the month of June, but I really wanted to share this around because I shared it on Instagram, and this is a really, really fun layout. It's really fun adding the naturey stuff and just kind of figuring out how I wanted the colors and stuff and where I had the dark elements to balance off because the puffin is a dark color, and making sure that there's just lots of fun elements. Because of the collection having a lot of like botanical florally elements, it really made it easy. So as you can see, I'm like trying to figure out, do I want this one up at the top? Do I want it at the bottom? And I decided to put it, there was a lot of going back and forth on this and cutting up, and I cut up a ton of paper. I mean, I feel like I wasted paper. And so this is one of these things. One, you could always use scrap, like larger pieces of scrap paper if you have, because you pretty much have to go in and hand cut in some ways or figure out how all the points are going to meet together. And I knew that because everything was going to meet together in that middle where my title is. As you can see, I put down where my title is going to be. I did a lot of hand stitching or not hand stitching, like machine stitching where the leaves were. So some of those elements are already put down because I put them through the sewing machine. So now I'm just finishing gluing stuff down. I know that like some of it got lost, but I think some of it was because I just used my machine. And like I said, that's really hard to show. And I'm just kind of trying to find pieces that I think are going to work really well. I want to see this great pattern that I've created with pattern paper. I also want that big photo to shine. I mean, you can see this puffin in the air flying. I mean, it's awesome. I mean, he is you can't really tell from this photo, but he is diving down into the ground and he is just full on in the air. And so to highlight that, I definitely didn't want to bulk up my layout as much as I could with pieces, but I did want there to be pieces, and I did want there to be interest, and I did want there to be the colors that are in my photo to be on the page. And so there's this really big balance, and I find that this is just like a personal thing. You have to really just play with your pieces and find what your balance is, because what my balance is and what some of the other ladies on our team who also are amazing, what their balance is so different. And I cannot say this enough for anyone else, but that you cannot be someone else. As when you're a scrapbooker, you cannot be someone else. You can take their pieces, you can play along and scrap lift and try to mimic what other people are doing, but in the end you just got to play and figure out what parts you're taking for you and that make a layout yours, and what pieces you're going to say, you know, that's awesome, it looks great when Missy does this, it looks great when Christina does this, it looks great when you know, Rachel does this, but that's not me, right? So you really have to figure out what elements are the ones that you can take and what elements you just have to say, you know what, it's okay. So, and I find that when I'm working with a lot of pattern paper, it's really super hard because I haven't used color elements as much. And so I will say these are really hard. So finding the textures for me is really important. So, you know, adding the title to that circle and then stitching it around and around and around like a few times. Like I almost broke my sewing machine doing it, but it just looks really awesome. And then you see all those pieces, and when you look up at the close-ups, you'll definitely see it, because I definitely really wanted to hone in on that. And I'm going to add my journaling to that box. I don't add a lot of journaling. I don't think you really need a lot of journaling. I mean, really, it's just this awesome photo that I wanted to be able to put out on a layout eventually. And I have some other layouts where I have similar shots and stuff, so where I talk about this. But, you know, I just wanted to be able to focus on something. And this is the great type of thing, you know, finding a photo that you absolutely love and that you had a lot of fun taking, and then making a layout with it that has this really cool pattern and design, and that you can just really focus on that. So definitely play along with the sketch this month. You guys have till the end of the month to play along, and there's definite prizes if you play along and you get chosen. And make sure you hashtag us so that we can find your work. I'll see you guys later, and have a great scrappy week. Bye.